So I want to put an exterior plug receptacle before I close this wall up, and I'm going to go ahead and add another interior because I never have enough plug receptacles. I have plenty of receptacles, but the problem is when you work in one spot, you need a bunch of cords in one spot, and my receptacles are spread out over the shop. And I'm not like the young people. They have all battery powered tools. All my tools still have tails. So anyway, I'm gonna get electricity from this switch box over here, and I'm gonna put one interior receptacle and one outside receptacle down low. And I think it's probably not legit, but I think I'm just gonna drill all the way through and try to drill into the box. See how that works for me. What I was hitting, but I have a hole in that back corner. Absolutely perfect spot. I need a longer bit to, well, I wonder if I could drill it out bigger with this one. Let's see. Okay, clear. It's just that plastic, this bit. Does not want to drill that plastic. Perfect. All of the interior surfaces of my walls in my shop are 3/4 inch ply, are covered with 3/4 inch plywood. It's a 95% foam plywood that I brought home from work and took apart and cleaned up and put on the wall. It's not really pretty, but it's really nice to have 3/4 inch plywood. Anywhere you want to put a shelf or put a nail, it's there. Screwdriver. Okay, now I've got future hot wire. I'm not going to hook it up yet. Power this box, and I got another wire going here, and it's going to power the box that I put on the outside wall. I'm not going to cut that hole yet because I want it to match up with the siding collapse. So now I can cover this up as long as I don't have to use my saw. I'm still on table saw probation, but I think I have a couple pieces of plywood already cut for that. Okay, we got this little area closed up. This was the same plywood that came off. Fit still. So this receptacle is wired, but it's not hot because this is what feeds it, and I'm not going to make it hot because I have a loose wire in the wall. So as far as we're going to go for now. Now on this side I want to put a receptacle over here in the corner, so I'll feed it from here. And I don't know what happened here. It's a broken box with nothing in it, so I'm hoping I can get power from here to here. I'll go ahead and add a receptacle here, and I'll just drill through all these and leave a wire loose in the wall over here. I would like for it to be a little lower. I don't know what I'll run into if I drill downward, but I might. But anyway, first thing we need to do is figure out what's going on with this box here. Okay, I got the inside walls sealed up, not caulked or painted yet. They may never be. On both sides, so I can kind of sort of put the inside of the shop back where it was. I can slide the plywood rack back in that corner. That'd be a big improvement. Nope, not going to do that. Changed my mind. I'm going to redo this overhead rack before I push this rack back. It used to hold material from basically the top of that 2x6 all the way across here, and it was very useful for putting a PVC pipe, aluminum straight edges and stuff. It was real lightweight. But now that this window, the top of this window is 6 inches lower, I can move everything down and hold more junk. I'm gonna do that because I got a lot of junk. So I'm gonna lower this rack and rebuild it, and then put all this stuff that I got out here on the ground, put that away. So, finished my little rack for lightweight stuff. I did a better job building it this time than last time. And it's amazing how handy all those little pieces of pipe and aluminum straight edges and stuff are when you do all kind of random work like I do. So this is good. This piece of flashing, I think they call it Z flashing. This is meant to go on a wall when you got 2 layers of plywood to keep rain from getting behind the bottom piece. It's like a drip ledge type of deal. I found a piece in my junk pile, so I mounted it on the bottom of both doors. I mounted it upside down so that this actually goes underneath the plywood and then has a drip going straight down. So it's going to do 2 things. It's going to keep water from splashing up onto the bottom of that exposed plywood. Even though it's treated, it is 25 years old now, so it's not as treated as it once was. And another thing it's going to do, it's going to give me a smooth bearing surface for my glide instead of wood. Now, if you remember, the last door had a piece of wood horizontal across here, and that worked pretty good. But on now, I'm going to do a pattern, and I'm not going to have a smooth bottom of wood, so it would have a bump. So if I keep the wood above the top of this, where it's just barely covering that sheet metal, I'll solve 2 problems. One, keeping the water from splashing up behind the plywood, and 2, giving me a smooth flat edge for my glide. This is plastic from, I think, a cutting board. It's that soft plastic. I'm gonna cut it in half, and I'm gonna bevel the edges, and I'm gonna put it here, and this will be the guide between, so this will be what the door rubs on. Keep it from going too far in. I haven't done the other side yet. I will also need a guide to keep the door from swinging out. But this is a start. I'm gonna cut this and bevel the edges real good, and we're gonna screw it into place. I'm ready to put the final trim on the sliding doors. This door still had a bow in it, so I straightened it with a 1x6. So the trim's gonna be the 2 inches plus the 1/2 inch of plywood plus a full inch. So it's gonna be 3.5 inches wide. It's gonna go top to bottom. I'll have to notch it for that little stop. I may just notch one of them, not both of them. So I'm gonna put this on here. I'm gonna put some screws from the, I'm gonna put some screws in it. And then I'll put the other one on. I'll make sure that they fit right before I might have to adjust them a little bit. Make sure the gap is good. Okay, so I got the notches cut. Okay, we have a missing video clip. I could not locate the guide on the ground where I could open the door completely or close the door completely. So I had to notch the trim to allow a little bit more movement, and that's what that notch is. And I got them both marked with a Sharpie where I want them to go, but I can't get to them unless I take off that center stop so the doors can slide past center. I think I have them marked well enough so when I bolt them down they'll be in the right place, but we'll see. Let's get this middle stop off. Okay, so I got it marked. This is where the same bracket was before, closer to the wall. And it's gonna go right here. I'm gonna drill it with my worn out drill. It's kind of like a diesel engine. You gotta warm it up for a little while before it starts hammering. It just makes noise at first, but it'll get them in there. 2 plastic anchors on each one, 2 stainless steel screws. The other one's hung around for 20 years. Same setup, so just do it again. Okay, I got 1 screw in the back hole. It's the bigger hole, so I can tap it around a little bit. But actually, I think it's pretty good. The only thing I'm gonna need to do is cut this thing a little shorter because I need room for the I need more room for the wood. I need to cut it like halfway. Well, I can't cut it to the drill hole. I can cut it halfway down to the drilled hole. I'll do that before I put another screw in it. Okay, we have good fittage. Even the problem door straightened up. The guide works really well. I might have to tighten it up a little bit. I have this much play. But all I have to do is hit it with a hammer because it's brass and it bends. Now the middle stop is keeping it from going any further. And now this one, which has always behaved well, go till the middle stop hits it. And both of the little guides are underneath the trim, but they're not past the steel slide, so they can't get hung up on it ever. So this is awesome. Now, what I'll probably make sure, right now this stop is just a clamp. I need to make sure whatever I put on there for permanent, it's gonna hit that before it hits that. Now this one's fine, just like it is, because it'll knock that guide out of whack if I let it bang into that one. So it's right. See, this one, the guide is hitting the wood, so I need to slide that clamp in a little bit, and when I put the permanent fixture, I need to make sure it's in enough, keep that from ever bumping into that. Yeah, this is pretty cool, man. So I am ready to go to the depot, buy 38 sheets of hardy plank, but I'm not physically able to do that. And I'm ready to take these doors off, lay them on the sawhorse, finish all the siding, paint them, put another strip of wood across the top so those bolts have more to hang into. But again, I'm not physically able to do that yet. I'm still recovering. I went to the hospital yesterday and got some shots in my spine, well, adjacent to my spine. It's really funny. I got a nerve problem in my back, but the only thing that hurts is my foot. My foot kills me, but the nerves that control your foot go through your back, so it's the way it is. Yeah, this is great. Oh, and I put silicone caulk between all the glasses so they're all sealed. I kind of wish I would have taped them first. I thought it would be easier to scrape the silicone off with a razor blade, but it was pretty challenging. And now the windows are dirty. I need to clean them again, but yeah, shaping up. Yeah, just need some health to come back to me. We'll side up these sides. Put the hardy plank on the sides. Now I had a reader, a regular reader who makes very intelligent comments, commented to me that the hardy plank was crap. It kind of took me off guard because I've always admired the hardy plank and everybody in the South uses it. So I don't know what happened, whether his experience was 20 years ago, maybe they changed it. Maybe it was an off-brand. He was saying that there was sawdust. I think that's what he said. There was sawdust in the mixture that makes the hardy plank, but I don't think there's any biodegradable in the new hardy plank. So I don't know what happened. I don't want to dismiss him, to be dismissive of his experience, but I've done a lot of research. I read all the small print like I told him I would, and I think it's good stuff. I'm going with it. Well, Paul, my neighbor, came over this morning and helped me get the door down. And first thing I'm gonna do is add this piece of trim up top, because right now all the weight is just being held by the 1/2-inch plywood where the bolts go through, and I don't want it to wear. So I'm gonna glue and screw this to the top, and then we'll drill that hole through. And then this is actually painted treated plywood, so it's, treated yellow, southern yellow pine, so it's really hard. And then I'm gonna start laying out the pattern for the siding. So this is the basic design I want to put on my doors. I did this a bunch of years ago. And I got to do it a little bit different because this material was much better than the material I have now. This was like planed on both sides. It was very, very thin, and I could have these little bitty laps, and it didn't stack up too much because this material is so thin. The material I have now is rough cut on both sides. It's really thick, and I can cut it down. I think I can cut tapers with the table saw, but I still would have trouble, I think, if I tried to stack them up this big. So let me show you what I'm gonna do to try to remedy that. Okay, so this first circle, I think you can see it. This was the radius point, and that's similar to what I have back in the backyard. And if I take my straight edge and put it in an arbitrary point out there at the end, and go to the radius point and put a pencil mark with this. And then I swing it over 5.5 inches because that's the maximum exposure I have on this material to work with. And go back to the radius point. My laps here would be teeny tiny, just like in the back. So I played with a couple of different radiuses. And I tried this one and this one. That's these two. And then I hooked it on the end. And I did this radius. And I did the same thing, and I got to overlap this much, which is probably much more reasonable with the material I have. And I think it's going to be okay. Half of the circle will be on this door, and the other half will be on the other door. And then we'll radiate out, and I believe I have enough material to do that. So I'm going to cut a pattern for this curve. Check it a few more times to make sure it's going to work, and I'll keep the pattern and flip it over for the other side. So I cut a pattern, and I did a few practice radiuses. These are worst case scenarios because that's where the boards are longest. And I'm good. I'm gonna go find something weatherproof, an inch thick. Cut this out. I'll cut 2 of them. And I don't know where I can go ahead and attach it and start filling it in with wood. This door will get kind of heavy, so I may only do like fill in part of it. Anyway, I'll have Paul to help. So, okay, progress. Okay, this is the board I'm gonna cut my 2 semicircles out of. This came from the boat I cut up, and it's actually not a board, it's actually a lamination of a whole bunch of boards. This boat was out in the weather for 48 years before I cut it up. It's not rotten, it's good as gold. Unfortunately, when I cut it, I'm gonna cut through a bunch of bronze nails. And then I'll have to rip this smooth and laminate it again because it's not quite wide enough, but this is the best, most longest lasting material I have here to make this out of. So I'll be glad to use it up. I've been sitting on it for a while. Okay, I got my 2 pieces glued up, and it's bright sunny, so it should dry soon. The reason I have this laminated like this, because these bulwarks went around the edge of the boat, so they were curved, especially toward the front, and they also flared out toward the front. So they just started with 1 piece and nailed it to the hull, and put another piece and nailed it, and put another piece and nailed it. So they have a whole bunch of little bronze nails, and they glued it up in place from one end of the boat to the other, 36 feet. So when I cut the boat up, I didn't save the parts up front that had the double radius curves in them. I just cut the ones in the back that were kind of straight, and I've used them a couple of times, and this is about it. They're about all gone.
So I didn't want to use my bandsaw on this because of all those little bronze nails. I don't know if they would have dulled that bandsaw blade or not, but I put a metal cutting blade in the jigsaw, and it went right through the little nails, and then I put the board on the stand-up belt sander, smooth it out, and it came out pretty good.
Typically, you would just lay the siding down here and cut this angle going straight to that point. But if you do that, you end up with the thick part of the siding that you keep. When you start going around this curve, you want it to be as thin as possible. So in this case, I put it this ways, and I'm saving the thin part and throwing away the thick part. Put it like this. It's kind of hard to explain, but you'll see in a little bit. Now in this particular siding, there's not hardly any bevel on it at all, so I may end up having to cut some bevel on the bottoms to keep it from getting too thick going around this corner. But this is my first piece, and it's ready to cut.
So I was happily going along here, cutting them and nailing them and cutting them all wrong. The first 4 are totally wrong. I blame this on my impending antiquity and the fog of aspirants, I guess. I don't know. But I wasn't tapering them. I was just cutting them like siding and just stacking them up. So I'm gonna have to do something. It's in the bottom corner. I don't know how bad it's gonna show, but I think it's gonna show. So anyway, got my act together and got going straight with the longer ones, and yeah, it's part of the deal. Everything doesn't always go right.
Okay, it's come back to me. Like I said, it's been a couple of years. Just the top to the point and the bottom to the point, and that's the part I cut. That's where I rip. I make that in fit first, and then I overlap this, and I use the template to scribe the curve. And this can be close enough. So yeah, so these first few are just wrong. I'm gonna leave them. I'm gonna make the first few on the other side wrong too, so they match up. But I am quickly running out of boards, long boards. I got a ton of short ones, but I don't really want to splice them. But I might. Okay, so then I lay the straight edge down the siding, and I get it to that point down there. This is my point. This piece of siding's a little bit bowed, doesn't matter. Okay, we're gonna call that good. And then we're gonna put the straight edge on the bottom from the point, put the straight edge on the bottom from the point to where it crosses this piece of trim. And this is the rip line. I'm gonna do it again because I need both hands. And then I take a straight edge, which this works out well, and I mark this straight with this trim, cut the end and rip it, and then bring it back, and then I'll mark the arc using the template to get the right curve, or close to it. Clear as mud? Okay, so now the board's laying in place. That end was cut and this rip was cut, and it just happened to be the length. I didn't have to cut the length. And then I set the template up here. This is the template I cut that curve from, and it is not perfect. I'll mark that. And I've been cutting these on the table saw to pretty much a little straight line, and nail it. And then I have one more, I think, long enough before I got to go to the super long ones, and eventually they'll start getting shorter. So I know the worst thing that old people can do is complain about their health, but I am moving really slow today. In spite of that, I got started on the sun decoration for the sliding doors. I screwed up the first few boards. I may or may not redo those, but I don't think it's going to show that much. And I'm about halfway through with all the siding that came off the front of the shop. It's a terribly wasteful project. Most of the boards go in the trash. So I'm going to start on the other door and try to match them, so that if we do change sidings, or if the siding that I have up in the attic is a little different, that both doors will be different at the same place. But anyway, shut her down for the day and locked it up, and yeah, pretty happy with what I got done. So my good neighbor Paul came over this morning. He knew I was going to need help, and we laid the other door down. And this morning I already had this made. I only had to cut it. This was ready, and the top piece was already prepped from yesterday. So I got a big head start from what I did yesterday. And plus I know what I'm doing now, so I got a good feeling I may finish all the siding on this door today, put it back up, and then I'll just have that little bit if I have enough siding. Let's get going. This cut where I point to my corner out there is what I did not do on the first three boards on this side. I just let them be parallel. But I don't know why I can't go back with my multi-master and cut them in place and get them to look like this side. So I don't think I have a big problem. I do have a big bump right here, so I'm going with the chisel and cutting that down. After the first one, it's not so bad. Okay, we are on a roll this morning. Everything's going well. The only issue I'm having is it's so bright outside and clear. I go inside to use the bandsaw and can't see. I'm having some eye adjustment delays, but yeah, no problem here. Everything's going well. I got the learning curve behind me.
The only thing worse for a bandsaw blade than cutting through paint is cutting through 100 years worth of paint. But I've just donated this bandsaw blade to the cause to make all these rips safely. Yeah, you know, paint has the color in paint is just ground up minerals, so it's like shoving the blade through little bitty thin pieces of rock. So after you make the cut on the bandsaw to cut the taper, about, I don't know, 30% of the board ends up on the floor. It's trash. So it's not that big a deal. These boards aren't very valuable, but I need to make sure I have enough, so it's close. I hate to see the waste fall on the floor and not knowing if I'm going to have enough. But in the end, everything's lovely.
Okay, so this is where the board's going to go. the top of the board needs to rotate until it's pointing at the corner out there, like that. And then the bottom of the board needs to go to the same point. So this is where I cut it. And then up here, just cut it to match the trim piece. Boy, the sun's so bright. Holy moly. Cut the end, I'm going to cut the rip, and then I'll lay it back on top and adjust it, and then cut that little piece of a circle. Everything's lovely.
So all these gun nails are sticking out the back of the plywood, and there's a lot of them. I'm going to have to deal with that later. I think I'll cut them short with the pincers and then kind of bend them over. I think that'll give them more holding power, because I don't have a lot of wood to, you know, I'm not nailing into anything really thick. It's mostly plywood except around the edges.
So these are the marks that I copied from the other door that's already done. I'm trying to keep the bottom right here, but I'm losing ground a little bit, because if I put the board right here, I only have like an inch over it. I'm down to like a 1/4 of an inch overhang, so that's not enough. So I'm going to keep trying to catch up. It doesn't matter if it's not exactly perfect, but I don't want to get like 3 inches off or half a board off or something. I want it to be pretty close. So the 3 bottom boards on the second door I got right. The difference is on the first door I never ripped the bottom, so the bottom of the board would point to the point. So now this is the door that is wrong, and you can see the board's real clunky, but I kept the drops from those 3 boards on the other side. So I'm going to scribe where they should have been cut. I'm going to try real hard to cut them in place with the Multi-Master. That's what I'm talking about. 2 more to go. Okay, 1 more to go. That went better than I thought it was going to go. Yesterday, I finished the siding on this door on the bench. And then on the last few pieces, like all of these, I made a reverse pattern and fit them onto this door, so I didn't have to take this door down again, which is nice because they're getting really, really heavy. And they need some fine adjustments, which I'm not sure how I'm going to do because there is no adjustment on the caster. And I need to finish the siding on the side and the top on both of them. I'm going to scrub them with soap and water because the boards are dirty. Caulk them, paint them, yeah. Shaping up and fixing those first 3 boards, huge difference, and it wasn't all that hard, just a little work with the Multi-Master saw, and they are where they're supposed to be now. All right, all the siding is finished, 100%. One thing I wasn't counting on, because I'm not that smart, is I maximized the spacing here to minimize the number of boards, but above the window, it gets quite a bit wider than the siding I had. So I've got a mismatch. I got an assortment up there. I got some treated plywood. I got some plywood from the old houseboat, and I got some plywood from the demo house. And I think once it's painted, I got 1 piece of wide siding, but the rest of it I couldn't use. But I think when it's painted, it's going to be fine. Now I need to get them. They're not fitting anymore since I redid the wheels. I got to get them adjusted and figure out what I'm gonna do for hardware, and I'm gonna wash them with Clorox and maybe get a little bit of paint. No, then I gotta caulk. Probably won't get paint on it today. I'm naturally kind of a messy guy. Couple that with a foot It causes you pain every time you take a step. I was hesitant to take many trips to the garbage can, so everything just went on the floor. Well, yeah, I got to clean up today, whether I like bending over or not. It's time to straighten up a little bit in here. Okay, so I think I want to lower this side of this door to kind of close that gap up a little bit. But my little guide hardware at the bottom is already touching. See the bottom of that semicircle? See where it stopped? And it gets pretty snug. So I'm gonna cut that bronze thing a little shorter. I'm gonna cut that bronze off a little bit with the grinder and go from there. So on the inside bottom of one of the doors, I put this piece of aluminum, random piece of aluminum, and bent it so it's like a guide. And on the outside, I think this would be called an astrogirl. It'd be called a key astrogirl if it had another board. But I made that and screwed it on there, and I beveled this side so that when the door closes, it won't hang up on anything. I put the old handles back on, and I just put a simple little thing here with a chain. Yeah, there's no sense in going crazy on security because the side door has glass in it, so keep the honest kids out. It's all finished. Yesterday I caulked, today we paint. Yoo-hoo!
So I didn't film it, but as far as leveling the doors goes, there was a little slot between the big bolts and the holes drilled in the wood. So I loosened the both, and I was able to rack the door to where I wanted it, and then crank down on the bolts real tight. And yeah, I got all the adjustment I needed, even out of one door. I didn't have to mess with the other door.
And we got first coat of paint. And let's wrap up this video. I thought I'd be through with the whole job 2 weeks ago, but doing what I can. So this is going to be hardy plank siding. I don't even know if I'm going to do a video because it's kind of boring stuff. But anyway, I don't think this was boring. I thought this was interesting. All right. Thanks for watching.